send it over to the guys at the analyst desk.
Thank you, gentlemen. They mentioned in the pregame that it's generally the onus of the team that's on the losing end of a series to make changes coming into the third game. However, we saw very few changes by either team coming into this pick and ban.
Well, I was really disappointed with Origen because they had a working formula. The Anivia and with the carries that Niels is very comfortable with were working wonders. It was putting a lot of hesitation in the Flash Wolves side. For some reason, they decided to switch it up and just say, look, we can play other things too. And they lost to it. And the Jinx denial pick, I feel like benefited Flash Wolves even more than it benefited Origen themselves because the Caitlyn was actually the playstyle that NL has during this series is more beneficial towards the Caitlyn than the Jinx. For example, on the Jinx, he was throwing a lot of ults preemptively, try to soften them up. That doesn't do a lot of damage. On Caitlyn, on the other hand, you start off with the ult in the team fight, you start off with the Peacemaker. It's a lot of damage to really soften them up, and it really speaks to the champions that he plays, such as Avaris, that really just want to get some poke damage in before the fight begins.
Yeah, and the stat on Caitlyn is he's 3-0 before this, but hadn't played it in the summer split. So, you know, another win, 4-0, never lose, once again coming up massive for his team. And I just think that the Caitlyn was great because if the games are going to go to 40 minutes, you said something. You said you either pick early and try and beat them at that, or you just completely resign the fact that no one is going to win. You pick Nasus, Veigar, Caitlyn, and you just take it to super late game and you beat them at that.
My difficulty with just, I feel like in the draft, I feel like Flash Wolves has won 3 games in a row. Simply because the trend has been for Origen to always pick these matchups that they're weaker in. With the Darius against the Gnar is something we've seen. And of course, they had the Kalista in the second game. But also the bottom lane matchup in this game is a weaker matchup. And then they are weaker 5v5 as well. What is the win condition? That is like outplaying them in decision-making in the late game. And if they don't reach that point where Flash Wolves hasn't done any mistakes in the early game, it's going to be very, very difficult to win.
And let's just build on that, because the thing that they've been doing well is the bottom lane was always a winning lane, so they were able to 2v2 and put a lot of pressure on. What that meant is that Soaz was never really in a position to get heavily punished. This time they pick a losing bottom lane, it goes into this lane swap situation, and then they're never able to use the double teleport, they're never able to use Niels at what he's strong at. So overall, the fundamental part of this game was that they're not going to take risks in the mid game, we know that, but they didn't pick a winning lane to be able to bully. All of a sudden, Kasa, who is out jungling amazing by a very long way this series, is just able to roam around the map. He had a very early sightstone, and he just kept everyone super safe. Like, there was nothing they were doing in that.
For me, Amazing used to be the guy that's dictating the tempo of Origen throughout the group stages, and right now, he's kind of lost. He's really not
dictating the tempo.
Yeah, he's not really finding his way. You know, he has a lot of opportunities to create a lot of tower dives and just brute force his way. Because with a pick like Gragas, you can really do that. Like, you could have abused the side lanes, go for picks, blow a lot of summoner spells, but that just never happened. And then the fights, it's very difficult to get engages into a Morgana linear. Like, you need to go for angles.
Late game it is. One thing I will say about Gragas, just before we move on, is that he's one of the best turret divers against Morgana because he technically should be able to pop the level 1 Black Shield. He can actually turret dive, one of the few people that can turret dive Morgana's mid lane and get away with it.
Well, that's what I want to talk about, is not only in the early game, but even through the mid game. Jat was talking about the 15 to 30 minute for Origen and essentially their inability to do anything on the aggressive side. Part of that is because of what they've drafted themselves into. The question is, can they draft the other style and play the other style?
They don't have to. They could have won. They could have 3-0'd if they picked the same thing that were. If they picked the Nivea and Sivir, I would not have a doubt that they would have 3-0'd this series.
All right.
I feel like
disagree.
Even though I agree completely. It would have been easier with these picks. I feel like it would have been just way easier if just wait a bit, don't blind pick the Darius, pick the stronger matchups and play on that.
Yeah. But the other thing is that if someone's freezing bottom lane and you have Gragas Orianna, that's not like a team that can't go aggressive. You throw your Gragas in there with an Orianna ball on him, there is no way you defend that turret anymore. Jinx goes through it in 1 minion win.
Yeah, well, the last thing I want to take a look at is the heartbreaking Baron play that occurred. And if nothing else than to say that there was a moment in this game in which, had this gone the other way, it may have been Origen's ticket back into it.
So it's like, I think this, as you said, Spawn, earlier when we were discussing it, this kind of highlights what this game has been about, just chaos. But in this moment, I was shouting, like, aloud, Soaz, what are you doing? Just tank the Baron so Nils doesn't get the debuff, you know? The debuff that makes him do less damage, and then just this happens. Just walk in there and hit it a bit, please.
One Q from Darius would have been all that's needed.
Yes.
He just did anything.
But to be fair, these moments rarely happen.
Yeah,
this is trade for that.
This is
well,
not
and also,
what
you know,
happens
the
in
rocket could have crit and it would have been a kill. You know, so there's definitely elements of this could have gone either way just by, you know, yeah, exactly, just based on RNG. But, you know, those are the moments, and as you mentioned, that highlight the chaos so far of this series. And we mentioned this is the cleanest win so far on the side of Flash Wolves, but I wouldn't necessarily declare that any of the 3 wins were clean.
But one thing I will say is that the teams that have tried to go a little bit forward, like the Anivia Walls, this time that Caitlyn picks storming down lanes, it goes in your favor. You get the perfect wall. You get double crit headshot on the Jinx and burn double summoner spells when you're taking an inhib. Sometimes just playing proactive League of Legends will win you games, and that time, it took a while to get there, but Flash Wolves eventually did get to proactive League.
Well, that is, yeah, that's the point to take away here, that the Flash Wolves did come away with a victory, and right now they're retooling towards Game 4. Shifting gears for just a minute, though, earlier we asked you how you're enjoying Worlds, and for Amp Alex 3, he has taken a break from the school books and says, this is what happens when your English teacher plays League and wants to watch Worlds. God, what I would have given.
Yeah.
I would have, you know, I would have, oh my goodness. In my high school years, in my college years, at any point in my life, for one of my teachers to play the same video game that I did.
I think it's horrible. You need to focus on the education. Come on.
He says.
The coach.
The coach over here. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll see if the Flash Wolves can keep the momentum on their side in Game 4. Don't touch that browser.
Don't get pace. Keep up the focus that we had in the past 2 games.
Mid is in for now. Snake on the backside. SOAS pushed pretty far. Apprehends in. And here comes Gragas. SOAS still losing health.
Even if Origen decided to
Whoa!
counter.
Oh, good. He's got him. He's
Nice.
Flash gets into the belly. Mithy's trying to run him out, but here comes Megador. Pulls 3 of them back in, and they've already killed off the Catfish. There's a second one as well. Baron Nash doing plenty of damage. Niels maybe won't take this for himself. He goes in with SOAS. They gotta be careful what they go for. Oh my God! And again, it's no kills. It's just Flash Wolves taking Game 3.